Welcome. Thank you. I'm Shoto. I'm the Sukansu in the Shisui here at SokukoJi Buddhist Monastery, which means I help keep things going, trying to help with the programming and the property upkeep here. I just want to invite anyone who finds value in these teachings to please participate either by joining us for the Dharma talks from either Sokuzan or his monks, his students. Join us for any of the book studies throughout the week, even just one time throughout the week would be great to see you in our Zendo or to join us online. We could really use your help with your practice, joining us, and also financially to help us keep the programming going here. So thank you very much.
This morning's Dharma talk is titled, if I remember it correctly, is Your Habitual Thinking. Thought about different titles for that, and it seems to work okay for what I'm going to talk about. So yours, of course, we're talking about yours and talking about mine too. I would not be able to even talk about this if I weren't able to see what I'm endeavoring to point out to in myself before I talk to you about it with your permission. You're in this room, you're on this screen. I assume, making somewhat of an assumption there, that you're giving me permission to let you have it. What do I mean by that? I'm saying point out to you what you may be having difficulty in seeing yourself because of habitual thinking. We get habituated to all kinds of things. Some habits are quite helpful. Eating, I think, works pretty well. Still alive. Of course, it depends on what you eat. So it's a little bit of variability there. But we are habituated to thinking. Something happens and we have some thoughts about it. Well, that's not the way she should be doing that. Or something happens in us. We start to think some particular thing, maybe negative thoughts about someone or something or ourselves. And then what do? We add on to it. We like that first taste of thinking about something this way, what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing, what I've done, what I shouldn't do, what I better stop doing, what I should really start doing. I'm sure there's 15 other ones there. Pardon me. Habit forming. If it gets really intense, then it becomes addictive. We're addicted to this. And if that's a negative, positive, neutral, that's more or less interpretation. It's just thinking. And it's just the grasping or the habit or the fixation, the clinging to it, fixation on it. I'm not trying to get rid of that. It's not wrong to go to right and wrong and judge it and try to control it through judging. You shouldn't be doing that. That's terrible. No, you should be doing that. If it shows up in your mind, that has its own validation. If it shows up, that's all the validation it needs in terms of consciousness. in terms of culture, tradition, rules, laws, ethics, and all the other bologna sandwiches there are out there that come out of our crazy cultures, not just ours, but all over. Again, not right and wrong. It's confusing if you are trying to live your life according to what you see in front of you rather than what you think you see in front of you. So if you see something in front of you and you don't think about it, then it's just consciousness. And it is not a conclusion, a success story, and it is not an event. If it becomes any one of those, then you've actually you can't get an event without thinking about it. Because if you have something that shows up in consciousness, as consciousness, for consciousness, appearing in front of consciousness, all the event qualities that show up in terms of the two complete misunderstandings and thinking that these two things are true. What are they? Time and space. There is no such thing. And if you believe that, you'll punish yourself and you'll punish those around you with the idea that you're doing the right thing. We see it all over the place. Is it painful to watch? Yeah, it is. But you can't control that. I'm not condemning you to a life of servitude to your habits. What I am saying is you might want to just sit still and take a look at it. You might want to, don't even call it meditation. Don't even call it, don't, giving something a name might help you find out what it is. And this is what I'm doing. I'm going to eat lunch. And now I'm eating dinner. There's lunch and dinner. Aren't those the same? You see why we get caught into thinking about things and parsing things out. And why do we do that? Why do we look for nuances in things? And is this, is that, is, question, question, question. What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Addicted, habituated to processing things in that part of consciousness we traditionally call the four skandha. Five skandhas are form, feeling, perception, concept of the thinking process, and consciousness of the six sense fields and their objects. Just receive, just see, just smell, just taste, just hear, just feel, just think. Nothing extra. The process in training your mind, if you are in at least a little inspired by what I'm saying, the process in doing that or practicing that is to see, be aware of consciousness, be aware of how much you grasp. Don't try to stop grasping. Don't let go of anything. Of course, I could say don't grasp anything or don't do anything unless you have to. Don't do anything. If you don't do anything, if you minimize, disciplining yourself in terms of distancing yourself from everything. This is why there are monasteries down through the centuries, thousands of years, human beings, a few of them have thought, I have to understand what this is. I can't just live according to mom and dad or my culture or what the village leader says, the shaman. You need to find out if the Buddha gave us anything, he gave it back our consciousness. 2,500 years ago, he said, you find out who this is. You don't have to believe in Buddhism. If someone says, if you say, I'm a Buddhist or I practice Buddhism or I study Buddhism, I say, well, what do Buddhists believe? You can come pretty close to the truth by saying, not much. Not much. There's not much of a belief going on there. If you think there is, then you haven't really heard what the Buddha said. What you did hear is what the Buddha said, but you also added on your own interpretation, your thoughts, your translations of what he said into what's more acceptable to you. Because it's very hard to accept something that you don't know what it is. And it's impossible to refuse something if you know what it is. But you have to know what it is, not just what you think it is. We tend to stack thoughts. We have a thought about this or engendered or triggered by aggression. We tend to stack a thought on top of that. That's just a way of talking about it. We tend to thinking about what I think you're thinking about, and I'm thinking about what you're thinking that I'm thinking about. And so that we even have conversations like that we think we're making total sense. Well, what do you think about that? I don't know. What do you think about what I'm thinking about what you're thinking? Haven't you ever said that to somebody? In so many words you probably have. Might not have said it exactly like that, but if you have a conversation, I mean this literally. And if you have questions about this, please consider your question before you ask so you don't preconceive the idea and completely miss what I'm trying to point out to you. Be very careful, tentative about what you ask. I'm not trying to stop you. I want your question. I would either prefer to have a question that's ill-considered rather than no question at all. So we stack them up. We make a whole dustbin or storage building full of stuff about. And some of them we refer to as soon as we get in the slightest tight spot or difficulty, we, instead of just receiving what's there, feeling this incredible world that you're in as a human form, this is temporary. Your true nature is not even human. Don't believe anything I say. Consider it. Just consider it a little bit. You're not you're not strictly not tied to, not stuck on being a human being. There isn't any central situation or life, I don't care whether it's human, raccoon, alien, whatever it is, whatever you refer to as other, that's temporary. May be there for 15 centuries, but it will not last. And when it comes to ultimate truth, there is no such thing as centuries. So the ego mind, the part of the consciousness, is so paranoid about being wrong or being accused or what will people think kind of feeling. We want to protect ourselves from that. We protect an imaginary self, which tends to perpetuate that aspect of consciousness, that part of consciousness, that quality of consciousness that is a little nervous about everything, or maybe a little magnetized by things. Party down, have a good time. Why worry about things? Let's just crank it up and celebrate and all be hedonists. I mean, why wouldn't that work? Well, it will. Everything works for a while. But we tend to stack up this on top of that. We think about this, and then we think about what we just thought about, and then we add on to what we just, and then what this does, it's not that this is wrong, that we have layer after layer after layer it's like building a wall against reality into your own personal little subjectivity called me, my stuff, my ideas, how I'm threatened, how I can get ahead, how I can keep from falling behind, how are the people next to me doing. Our whole society is based on, what are the three C's? Competition, consumerism, and cacophony. I just invented those. Misunderstand me, I did not invent those words. So, again, one more time. You, me, us, we are talking about endeavoring to see that our thought processes, our habits, or we habitually respond, think, add on to, evaluate, consume, conclude. This is kind of the mudra of conclusion. What was it, Rodin's sculpture, The Thinker? So this is the mudra of the Western world. Probably the eyes are darting around. This is the mudra of the Buddha. Hold still and look at it, observe it, receive consciousness. If you really are receiving consciousness, nothing will happen. It may, for the first 15 or 20 years, you may see all kinds of debris coming your way, or flowers, violets, and peacocks. I guess violets are flowers, aren't they? So you may see those things coming there and be very magnetic and you might have all kinds of lights come up and this feeling of being at one with everything. This is all just highly polished forms of confusion and ego. This is why the teaching coming out of centuries and centuries ago, the Buddha and the Nagarjuna from 2,000 years ago, talked about not this, not that, not both, not neither. The fourfold negation. Not this, not that, not both, not neither. It is a conceptual way of approaching what this is. It has no otherness to it. It's empty of other. You have to see it at the same time this old man's hand is moving. There's no one here. There's no solid person, although this personality is really intense. It's unreal, but it's intense. you come over and give me a hard time, I'm likely to give you a hard time. I'm not a pretentious, peaceful person. I'm not separate from anything in this room. The worst anger, the worst fit of anger you've had in the last 6 months, I'm not saying you've had one. I am that. I am that. I couldn't help anybody if I was a separate, holy person sitting on top of here like this wooden guy is. If I was this person, as a person, pretending to be somebody separate from everybody else, I couldn't help anybody. And I'm not saying there's any possibility of helping anybody, even if I'm going the other direction, if you want to call it a direction. So what I'm getting at here is, please be aware. Find out who you are. You don't have to join Buddhism. You don't have to be a student of mine. You don't have to come to a monastery. You don't have to pray to the Buddha. You don't have to any of that. You may have to do all of that. You may have to be a monk. Your particular karma, the causes, the condition that brought you into this world may be so difficult and so challenging that you need a solid form. I certainly did. I would not be here if it weren't for both of my teachers from the Tibetan tradition and the Zen tradition, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, Kobuchi Roshi, or all of the teachings down through the centuries with the Buddha, all the other teachings from the Upanishads, or all of the non-dual teachings coming to us in so many different ways, ancient times till now. Receive that. And when you receive that, then that might give you some inspiration to find out who you are. Don't get your identity from any person, from mom or dad or culture or people's opinions or ethics. Be very careful of right and wrong stuff. That's a trap. Ego loves to be right. And if it can find something where it can show up just a little bit better than everybody else, because it's so right and so perfect and so spiritual. There's no name for what this is. So we use a few names: consciousness, awareness, teaching of the Buddha conceptually, like I quoted or tried to quote Nagarjuna's fourfold negation. The other one is shunyata, empty. Everything's empty of what you think it is. It's empty of itself. There is no anyone here. It's empty of an other. There isn't anyone out there. So that's why the vow, on the Mahayana path of the Buddhism, the vow is to save all beings. Put others before yourself. That's just about impossible to do. But if you intend to do it, if you endeavor to do it, if you vow to do it, then you have the intention. And this coming together of the causes and conditions in the space and time and space coming together, like time and space coming together is just this. This is also wisdom and confusion or delusion coming together. Just this is the intention. This is the sword of Prajna, the sword of Manjushri. Just come together in this. And if you do, you'll see nothing is that has never been apart. It's never been separate. And it's a realization, and you realize nothing's ever happened. That's why it's a path of grace. You have to realize it. You can't think your way into it this way and that way. Dig your way into it, climb up in something, move things aside. Don't do anything. Hold still, sit still. Don't maintain anything. Let everything that is not holding still just do whatever it wants, because it will fall apart. The only way anything can hold still is through the tension of passion, aggression, ignorance, hope, and fear. That's the way this world keeps going. If you want this world, don't do anything. Just go around and chase one thing and run away from another thing and ignore the other thing. But if you want the truth, go within. How do you go within? You sit down and watch what that within is producing moment by moment by moment, without grasping it, belief, without rejecting it, disbelief, and without ignoring it, pretending or asking as if it did not matter. I'll take questions now. Yes, sir.
Shadow bowing, is there a fear or even paranoia that comes from the vow?
Yes. There's no paranoia, then it's probably not a vow. Go ahead.
Shadow bowing, is that different from a self-centered paranoia?
Well, same thing. They're not separate. That's why you need the vow. That's why you When I say you need it, I'm not saying you or anybody needs it. I feel like you need it. I'm very biased. I'm a Buddhist monk, and I'm dedicated to these teachings, and I'm dedicated to the vows that I've received and I've been observing for close to 50 years. If there's no outcome, there's nothing to accomplish, and nothing happens. There are no beings to save. Yet the only way you'll see that is to endeavor to see that, endeavor to save all beings, because the beings that you still believe are real, are rising in front of you moment by moment, either at your workplace or in your relationship, or in our case, in the Sangha, as real, and they have positions and they have ideas and they have opinions. They look very real. Treat them as if they're real. As far as how you act towards me or towards anyone else, you don't need to pretend that it's all an illusion, so who cares? I'm not talking about that kind of nihilism. That's baloney. Well, I wouldn't even call it baloney. That's too much respect to beef. Let's call it formaldehyde. Don't drink it. Don't drink the formaldehyde. What do they say about that thing down in South America? Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Uh, what if it's strawberry? Is that okay? Go ahead.
Shadow bowing. Is fear the pain of the composite?
No, fear just comes out of reactions in the pain of pain, uh, the pain of pain, and the pain of alternation. Like everything's okay, but you have a fear that things aren't going to be okay very long. So you're worried. Here you are having a good time. You're relaxed. You have a cup of Kool-Aid, coffee, and you're just feeling really good. Everything's going good. People are all smiling. You say, "Hey, how's it going?" "Good. How you doing?" "All right. Not doing too bad today. Had my ups and downs, but this is a good one." So, but then there's like, but this won't last. This is going away. The Kool-Aid will be gone. The coffee will be gone, or the ice cream, it will be all gone. But right now I got it, but there's not enough got it there to protect me from what? From what's going to happen next. Suffering, the fear of something else happening that's horrible, terrible. So that's the fear part. The pain of the composite, which is the three types of pain, the pain. We all know about that one. Everybody has that one. Pain of alternation. People might have that, but not really realize it because they don't realize that they're having a good time and they're enjoying themselves, but they're worried about what's going to happen next because of the illusion of time, that things will change. And actually, those are all the same situation. Just like pain and pleasure are not two separate things. They're just two aspects that show up in the nerve endings. They just look different. So if you come to the pain of the composite, or the pain of conditioned existence, this is conditioned existence. And so if you're a living being and you've realized your true nature, if you actually are no longer at war with anything, with your own consciousness, with your thoughts, with others' thoughts, with your activities, with others' activities, then there's just the pain of the composite, or the pain of conditioned existence, which is the pain of everyone. You no longer can protect yourself. You might have transcended on the relative path, or the provisional teachings. You might have gotten rid of some of your own pain and your own suffering and feel better. A lot of people talk about how much better they feel after they've meditated for 4 or 5 years. Have ways to go. That's only, you haven't even left the grassland yet up the side of the mountain. You haven't gotten into the cliffs. You haven't even gotten into those dark crevices, or up in the clouds where you can't see 3 feet in front of you. There's still work to do. There's still practice to be done. Go ahead, please.
Shadow bowing. Do hope and fear cover up the pain of the composite?
Yes. The only thing that opens that up is in intentional. In other words, intentional returning, not maintaining. Maintaining is fixation. It won't work. Intentional returning to the wish, the desire, the vow to see the truth, to save all beings, because they're all suffering, but they think they're suffering.
Shadow bowing. What are we afraid of?
Death, annihilation, coming to an end, having no more existence as a seagull.
Shadow bowing. It can look like we're afraid of someone else. How does that fear on someone else?
We just project onto others that there's someone over there who's our enemy, someone over there who's our friend, but they're leaving us. So it's a projection. You actually aren't separate from anything. There's no way you can lose anything because you never really owned anything. The whole territoriality situation is an illusion. If you think otherwise, go ahead. Think otherwise all you want. I'm not trying to get you to believe me. I'm saying you can consider it, and the way you consider that, go within. How do you go within? Sit down, hold still, have all your senses open, have your attitude to receive everything, no matter how it smells, how it tastes, how it thinks, how it feels, how it remembers, how. Receive it, and no comment. Don't interpret. As soon as you interpret, you've taken whatever showed up and destroyed, you could say, or covered up or disguised its truth. And what is its truth? Not two. There are not two things anywhere. That which you're looking at and that which is doing the looking are not two separate things. This is an ancient teaching that goes way back to the Upanishads, before the time of the Buddha. Not two. Non-dual, advaita, non-dual, possible. That's just a concept about it. To actually see it, even the concept doesn't reach what this is because it has no location. If you think something has a location, then you'll be tied into probably grasping, looking for truth, looking for something other, something. Always be feeling unfulfilled. Yes, sir.
Bowing in the habitual thinking, and we take those thoughts and sandbag them up and fortify our position. Where do we look to see the fear?
To see the fear?
Yes.
Just look at whatever's there. There's a sandbag there, and there's a sandbag there. Another sandbag, a sandbag, a sandbag. Just look at the sandbag. Don't be concerned with the fear until that shows up. And then just look at the fear and eat it. Don't cover it up with more sandbags or thoughts or blame. Don't blame anything. All Dharma, traditional teaching, one that is available to everyone. All Dharmas, Dharma meaning law or truth or convention or whatever this is. There's the Dharma of this, there's a Dharma of coffee, there's a Dharma of a bell, the Dharma of that just sound. What does that mean? It means nothing. It's just, but it's a wonderful thing that you can receive. That's why when you meditate, you should not be starting your meditation with, well, I think I'll meditate now. You need to start it with something that is in one of the sense fields where no thinking is happening. So there's a signal to the consciousness. You can not stop thinking, but you can put your emphasis on just receive how this feels, how this looks, how this tastes, how this thinks, how this remembers. Just very simple. Sit symmetrical and just receive. And if you see sandbags, then just observe those. Do not get rid of anything. As soon as you get rid of something, this is a very, very nature of spiritual materialism. Trungpa Rinpoche talked about it back when I met him in the early 70s. Even the book Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism doesn't mean it goes away, but you see what it is.
Bowing, is there a particular way to look at the thoughts as they pile up? Bowing.
Just head on, just directly, and be very aware if you tend to add. The spontaneous adding or kind of compulsive. This is the habitual part or the addictive part of adding on, should be observed, not stopped. So there are practices in Buddhism that help you stop being attached to thinking. I don't think that's a good idea. I do not think it is a good idea to even use the word recovery or improvement. You can't recover from an illusion or from suffering if you give some kind of validity to an illusion. It's like believing in a movie. I don't dare leave the theater because I just have to keep watching this movie over and over. This is lifetime. This is lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Don't believe it, don't disbelieve it, take no position. But you have to start out. Practice of awareness starts out by seeing the way you keep grasping and rejecting and shutting down. You may feel when you're leaving the bathroom to go into the pantry or something, or walking down the basement for something to get something, or leaving your car and going into your house. You may feel like you're just a, a wind-up doll. You may not feel like you have no purchase or no control over anything. This is the truth. But ego does not like that feeling. So we'll try to find something to sustain it or prop it up or something to hang on to. It might be a relationship, it might be a belief, it might be a convention, it might be ethical positions. I recently had a former student lecture me for a long period of time on ethics because they felt that I was not being ethical. I don't obey anything. I don't obey anything. I don't care what it is. I even said one time many years ago to try to point that out to a particular person who is no longer a student either because they feel that they can't, whatever it is, they don't like me, I guess. But I even said to them, I said, you may have to kill somebody. I wasn't saying you're going to be a murderer. I says, you don't know what's going to happen with karma. And if I was going to use an example that might be somewhat reasonable, not reasonable, not particularly fun, but you don't know when you're going to turn around the corner and there's a child running in front of you. And you might not have a choice there. It's not like it's your fault, but even the person who out of rage or out of anger, out of whatever kind of causes and conditions comes up, pulls out their fist or anything else and hits somebody and murders them. Those dharmas are without blame. I'm not saying the cause and effect wasn't there. Of course it was. But there's no individuals to blame. If you go there, we just have the constant menagerie of otherness, war and peace, war and peace, war, lifetime after lifetime. Every 250 years, more wars, or every 30 or 40 years, another war, another war, another war, and people trying to get power over everything. Want to hear that again? So explain that to me. You can't. I mean, you can go into concepts. If you're a musician, you could probably tell me what key that's in. One of my sons would hear that and tell me that was a E sharp or something like that. Is there an E sharp? That's why he would tell me that. He would be testing me. I said, no, that's just a C. Yes.
Yunkai bowing.
Okay.
You were saying that there is a dharma for, or dharma of everything.
Everything.
You feel that there's a dharma of fear.
Yes.
What is the dharma of fear?
The dharma of fear is the intense. It's a belief, but you're totally convinced that there's something else. You're convinced of the duality. And I'm not saying there aren't simple dualities, like I'm here, there's the kotsu, here's my coffee. Yeah, there's my coffee. So this is a duality happening there, but very simple. You could say simple, plenty of communication, cooperation, collaboration going on here. No threat. But when there's a threat, then that duality gets intensified, and suddenly this isn't a coffee cup anymore. It becomes some dark shape around the other side of the room, or someone who's talking about you, so-called behind your back, and saying things that aren't true about you, and realizing your reputation is kind of going down because people are making comments and other people are believing, and then when you come in the room, everybody's silent. I'm just saying simple cultural kind of things like that happen. But then there's the extreme kind, like the fear we're having, that looks like our whole world is just being taken over by dictators all over the place. They're showing up. And so this has been happening for centuries and centuries. There've always been kings, just different name, same controlling people coming along, trying to get power, not having any idea of the true nature of who they are, their complete spiritual nature. They just don't know it. It's not like their fault. Why isn't it their fault? There isn't anyone. But the belief that there's somebody who can be harmed, fear. There's a belief that someone can get ahead and do okay, pride. Pretty good. People like me. I'm a really nice person. Never hurt anybody. kind of things. But then I'm not sure if I'm getting close to what your inquiry is. Can you clarify the question further if you'd like me to go deeper into it?
Can't right now.
Okay, it's just a fear of the unknown, what's going to happen next. That can come up in terms of job instability, like all the things that are happening in our culture about people not having food, that people that have trouble getting food in the first place. Now it's getting worse. So that's very sad, sickening situation. But even the people, so-called billionaires at the top, they're having a fear they're going to lose their billions. So they have to dig holes in the ground and build huge cement structures way underground. So if atomic war starts, they can go down and be safe for 6 more months. But that's it. You're not going to be safe on a ball of dirt in the middle of nowhere called Earth. In the middle of nowhere, if you start to take any part of it apart, it's not separate. Go ahead.
Wonderful. If we see the same thoughts coming up over and over again, is
Boredom, yes.
it supporting ego? Is that maintaining an ego?
Any thought supports ego. You don't have to get rid of ego. If you see it's unreal, then it doesn't run your life anymore. Nothing runs your life. There is no authority anywhere. If you think there is, we're right back to kings and dictators, and even democracy is full of controls. They're just highly disguised as freedom. I don't mean to give a political thing here, but I'm a Buddhist monk. This is a spiritual path. If you're listening to me, I'm about seeing who you are, what this is fundamentally. You can't. I sometimes characterize all the political things going on. I would say, by all means, protest. We've been out here on the Beckley Road protesting too. So I'm not saying don't participate in your community, do, but the most important thing you can do, find out who you are and find out who you are, what this is. It's a landslide of otherness. The Peloponnesian Wars 2,500 years ago, during the time of the Buddha, had the same issues and difficulties, and armies fighting other armies and people murdering each other. But it's happening again today, just different uniforms more.
Wonderful. If we see thoughts, are they always supporting ego, or do we have to personalize them? Can we see them and just observe them?
Yes. You just watch them come and go. The personalization of that comes out of believing there is someone who's having those thoughts. Thoughts are just have their own. They bump up against each other and they add up and they even stack up on their own. But it's only about watching them stack up. It's not about stopping it. We might start out that way, but Trungpa Rinpoche, his early teaching, as I recall, back in the 70s was sit like this, hold still, eyes are open. When thoughts arise, label thinking and return to the breath. So that was his way of dealing with thoughts. I practiced that for a long time, 30 some years. I started changing into a different way of practicing, but I was still teaching that to others because that's what I felt I should be doing. Because I didn't know that I could teach to each individual back then. And so now I may, depending on if I talk to you personally, I may change how you practice with your permission. But it's about seeing that. So if you are always labeling the thinking and stopping the very thing that is the nature of the confusion and where ego gets its munchies from, if you're stopping it, then you have a control that creates a higher form of ego. This is just the way it looks to me. I'm not saying I'm right. If I talk to Dalai Lama or His Holiness Karmapa or Trungpa or Kobun or anybody else, any other teacher, they might say, well, Sokuzan, I can see where you might be confused in that way, but you're wrong. And I would say, okay, well, that's very possible that I could be, from the relative point of view, could be incorrect. But I have to teach this way. I have to say, sit down, hold still, and observe. Don't conclude, but if you do conclude, just watch that. So I'm about teaching awareness practice rather than try to control the mind to get you to stop thinking. Not necessary to stop thinking. You can't even do it anyway. So you can set it aside and emphasize the awareness of your breathing for a little while. Yes.
On divine, so observing thoughts, is it helpful to do any discrimination in that observing, like discriminating whether it's supporting ego or whether it is the first thought versus?
Very good question. And I would, when you say, let's start out with the first part of your question. Didn't you say, is it necessary?
Is it helpful? I will edit my question.
Okay, so let's go to, is it helpful? So what do you mean by that? I know what you mean by, is it helpful? But what will you be doing there?
Looking at whether it is having a chance to see ego in action, I guess.
Okay. Keep going.
If you're observing your thoughts.
Yes.
Is there some discrimination that would be?
There's something called discriminating awareness wisdom. It's a traditional teaching. Discriminating, it's a discrimination, but it's not the discrimination we think of as discriminatory, where we're saying some things are good and some things are bad, wrong skin color or something, not that kind of discrimination. It's just seeing the differences between things. You can see which hand is that? The right hand? Yeah. Right hand and the left hand. So there's a discrimination that goes on. It's very simple. It's not about judgment, unless you've got a broken arm. But there's a difference. There's a two-ness happening there, but there's no, and you see that. So the discriminating awareness that you seem to be asking about would be just being aware that you're adding or subtracting or dividing. You're taking issue with something. You seem to be pushing something down. Well, stop doing it. Do not endeavor to control something, because then that feeds right into that part of consciousness that is endeavoring to just open up, and it shuts it right down into a controller, someone who does this or doesn't do that and has control over their thoughts and no longer feeds their ego. If you feel like you're no longer feeding your ego, I can say it very bluntly to you, you're full of shit. I mean, I don't know how to say it in such a way other than say, I could say that's wrong, but I think it might strike you in such a way. So when I'm saying that, I'm just being as sincere with you as I can. Anything you do, anything that shows up, anything you do with it is ego. Whether you push it down, shove it up, or ignore it. Don't do anything with it. Why? Because it's like looking in a mirror. But if you're pushing the mirror around, trying to get rid of the mirror, trying to throw it over your head, ignoring the mirror, you will not see your true nature, because your true nature is reflecting back to you from everything. You are consciousness. This is consciousness. This is consciousness. This is consciousness. You are consciousness. Temporarily, that consciousness has congealed into a human form. Very temporary. I don't care if you live to be 100. It's temporary. This will not last. This comes apart. And when it comes apart, the consciousness will either go apart with it and you'll come back in another lifetime, or you will see what this is, and your liberation will happen at death. Don't believe anything. Don't believe anything I'm saying. Consider it. Not a belief system. I'm not here to give you some kind of catechism. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Is it possible to discriminate between the original thought and the thoughts that are then generated by ego?
Yes. Good one. The original thought is just dependently arisen, and the thought generated by ego has an agenda there about protecting something, getting rid of something, or doing something. But when the ego's thoughts start to arise without passion, aggression, and ignorance, then it's just like you have a clown sitting in your lap. The ego's still here. It's still dancing around. It's still trying to get your attention, because your karma is still active. You cannot get rid of your karma. You cannot be someone else. This is why Trungpa Rinpoche said, I feel, why he said half a century ago, be genuine. Find out who you are. Stop trying to be somebody different. I sometimes say, don't improve. Don't get better. Don't change anything. Just look at who you are. Be responsible for the emotions and feelings, not an ego being responsible, but consciousness. When consciousness is responsible, there isn't anyone. There's no one there. It's just a feeling. Just a feeling. You can do this. It just takes a while. And it can be very, very challenging and painful. This is why we have the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the teacher, the teaching, which I'm endeavoring to do. Probably a poor job of it, doing the best I can with what I see, and the community. We have a community here for the next few minutes, and then that will disperse and then come back together, perhaps more.
Shadow bowing. Is there more than one thought?
No. Questions online? Jisheen?
Bowing. The title is our habitual thinking.
Yes.
Is there a thinking which is not habitual?
Yes.
What kind of thinking is it?
It's just dependently risen, but there's no, the passion, aggression, and ignorance is out of it. So therefore, it might be as simple as you're looking over here, and then you look over there. But there's no agenda about it other than you might have heard a sound over there. So you might have a thought might arise. I wonder if that's a cardinal. There is nothing behind that that has something other than just receiving the cardinal and producing a very slight outflow called a thought or possibly speech. Someone might be next to you. I just said that to someone this morning. Look, there's a cardinal. I think it was a blue jay actually though, but I get my colors mixed up. You ever had a palette full of colors and you try to paint something and you paint something that looks terrible, and finally you look at the palette and you realize, damn, that palette looks better than my painting. I've only done that 30 or 40 times. So I don't go the other way and frame the palette. I'm not that full of it. Or maybe I am. If I found a palette shaped frame. Go ahead, Jisheen.
Thank you. You said consider the question before you ask it.
Yes.
What do you mean by considering the question, Bowing?
I'm saying specifically to anyone who's confused by what I'm saying or not sure what I'm saying, just make sure it's a very clear question, not some kind of rotation around a very labyrinth of thoughts. Make it very clear. I mean, I can give you an example of some direct questions. What is consciousness? It's a direct question. What are thoughts? Who am I? Who is this? What is this? Very direct. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't go into something like when we're using conceptual teachings like the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 12 links on the chain of existence, the 6 realms, the 3 realms, the various concepts that are used to break down consciousness into different shapes or aspects or qualities. But be very distinct and direct. Otherwise, you just create more circularity. Even if you ask the question and then the teaching person listens to what you say and they do their best to go into what seems to be your inquiry, sometimes the teaching person has to root that out a little bit. And quite often the question is actually covering your consciousness up in such a way that you actually don't understand the answer even when it shows up. I think I talked about that recently, when the questions cover up. Yudao.
Bowing. When I first came there, I was having a lot of emotional difficulties and
Came here?
yes, came to SokukoJi. And you would advise getting in touch with the body. And
Yes.
I still find that helpful sometimes, especially when there's some thinking that seems to be emotionally induced or something.
Yes.
Is that still appropriate to go to the senses to feel the
Yes.
sound?
Yes, I teach something called ASAP, alternating sense awareness practice. I teach it quite often taught it in a drug rehab, addiction rehab area where you would just instead of teaching Buddhism concepts or ideas or any religious or so-called spiritual dynamic, I would just try to get the person, help them get in touch with their basic consciousness, which is body consciousness. Body, mind are not two different things. They just look like it. They're all over the place. Sometimes technical words is, what is that? Is it schizophrenia?
One of them.
That's one of them. What's the other 3? Aren't you a therapist? Oh, what are the other ones?
Help me out, not Cindy.
Helping out
That's
now.
kind of
Well, psychopathology. No.
Yeah, there's all kinds of diagnoses.
And then the various 15 diagnoses. So ASAP, alternating sense of, so sit down, hold still, go to the sense of touch, and then don't hang on to it. Don't stay there and try to maintain. Then go to the sense of seeing. Just see colors, shapes, very simple seeing. Go to the sense of sound. When I go to the sense of sound, I have ringing in my ears all the time, so I immediately notice the ringing. Then if I go to the sense, and you can go to the sense of memory, you can go to the sense of the last dream you've had, you can take any part of consciousness. You can go to the taste of banana cream pie. Try to remember that. When you were eating it was very vivid. And if you didn't remember what it was, why would you want more? What is it? How does consciousness work? Find out. There's just an incredibly vast, open dimension that we call consciousness that is just filled with everything. There isn't anything that isn't in consciousness, as consciousness, showing up as consciousness, moving up as consciousness. I don't have another word for it, and it doesn't help you descriptively. But if you want a description, look at the object. Look at the back of your hand. You want to see consciousness? Hold up your hand. Hold up both your hands. Hold them up. Hold up your hands. That's consciousness. You guys were included. You just didn't know it. Naveed.
Navid bowing. Now that we're so habituated to the thinking, should receiving and not adding to the thoughts should that also be habitual? Should that also become habitual? Bowing.
In other words, not adding to thoughts becomes a habit.
Yes.
Okay, could be, but it's always about awareness. So it doesn't matter what you do and your style, Jishin's style or structure, or anyone else, or not to me. I mean, whoever it is, your particular way of working with the karma needs to be yours. Not you don't need to have some kind of a script set up so that you always function in a certain way. You need to go within and see what it is. If you go within, this is the help that I got from my teachers. Help me look here. And I did it for many, many, many years and did not get any results. Things got worse and worse and worse. As far as any kind of accomplishment or feeling like I was getting better or improving, it really got worse. The only thing that kept me going is the vow that I received from Trungpa Rinpoche to start with. It was the first place. So just return to that, and then you'll notice that sometimes your addition on there is kind of, and it backs off. But if you don't get a credential for it, if you don't say, I think I'm doing less adding, I'm doing less thinking. That's the downs what is it, slippery slope of trying to control anything or get your mind to do a particular thing, because it just doesn't work. It just becomes part of the illusion. It's suddenly something you thought was out here is just, you look back and say, I thought that was something separate that I'd done, and actually it's just another horse on the merry-go-round. And it's still going around, and you're still riding on it as if it was real. So awareness. Anything more, Naveed?
Navid bowing about what you just said. Sometimes sometimes a question help us to get to a point that we're now thinking less and forget the question, but the habitual thinking so much that actually I'm talking about myself. I try
Fine.
to
I do it all day
I
long.
I try to go back to the question, remember the question of what was that.
Yes.
I was thinking that how I can just not return to the first question, just be there.
So can I ask you a personal question? Do you mind sharing a response with everyone here?
Sure, of course.
Okay, it's got to be genuine. You can't bullshit me, okay?
Okay.
Not that you would. If I thought you were going to do that, I wouldn't even be asking you. How many,
All right.
how much do you, in a week's time, how many hours do you sit doing meditation, and do you practice shikantaza as I teach it?
Well, right now it has become mm, very less. I used to do it like when I started with you, I used to do it like for 1 hour a day.
Yes.
But now to be honest, I didn't do it.
So,
Just sometimes.
so that's the part that needs to be emphasized. Find a way, and I can tell you right now, a really good way to approach this is not try to sit longer, but to be literal about it, get your butt to the cushion, and when you get to the cushion, have a bell. If you don't have a bell, do you have a bell?
Yes, I do.
Okay, bell, water glass, that works. Anything that makes a sound, start your meditation with a sound. Sit down, hold still, start. That's all the longer you have to do it. But make sure you get there twice a day and sit down, have the intention to, I'm sure you can find some time alone that's less than a minute, and reinforce the intention to sit rather than the length of time. Time is an illusion. You don't have to worry about that. Of course, goes without saying, you're going to have to spend some time in the cushion. That's why we have something here called a block sit, which happens several times a week. We sit the whole month of February, and we don't do anything else but sit 8 hours a day. If you're with this community, that's what you're going to do for a whole month. And some people really need that kind of support, so they come together with the community. You're always welcome to come. I don't know if your plane is operating these days, to come from Iran, that's a long way to fly. But you're always welcome to come here. Anyone is. Just let us know you want to come. So, but the intention is what's important. So a couple times a day, more if you can, but at least the intention. And then at some point you may notice, uh, but again, it's not about accomplishing it. I mean, if you come back here in a couple of weeks or something and you ask about that again, I'm probably not going to ask you how's your sitting going. So it would be up to you. It's always up to you. All I'm doing is saying, might want to try this based on my experience. I found it was really helpful to me that I would just many, many years ago, that I might not have time, but I knew that I went in and sat down in my shrine room, zendo, meditation room, bedroom, wherever it was, sat down, just hold still. I did it many, many times. Sometimes right in the middle of a relationship dynamic that was going, not to solve the relationship issue, but just to get away for 30 seconds, 2 minutes. And if I didn't have a bell, I would just go like that. I would make a sound, and I would sit. And when I was done, I would get up. And so make a sound, and that somehow the sound inner uh, comes in with the thinking process where you don't make a credential out of it. It's just something very simple. It's as if in that 30 seconds you probably won't think much at all, but you won't get a credential that I'm not thinking. You just notice there's not much happening because your intention is so clear. You know you're not plagued by having to be there for an hour, 2 hours when you've got laundry to do, or you've got people to visit, or you know a roof to paint or something. You just sit there, sit symmetrical, sit very still without being rigid, and then get up. And you'll notice that the intention coming back, returning. And if it helps you, I don't know, this depends on the person. There's no formula I'm going to give out, but if it helps you to whether you've taken refuge formally or not, but if you consider yourself a student of the Buddha's Dharma, then you could also do that. It takes 15 seconds. I take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha, and sit. So I take refuge in the Buddha as the example of someone who was not crazy. I take refuge in the Dharma as the truth that he taught. There are no separate things anywhere. Nothing occurs at all anywhere. There's an illusion. I take refuge in the Sangha, or the community of crazy people like myself who come together because they see something really valuable here, and they want to know what this was that was said by the Buddha 2,500 years ago. Natsumi.
Not to me bowing. Do Does language, do language and thoughts always go together?
Thinking can happen without words.
Can words happen without thinking?
Yes. They're just structures. So they quite often just look like they're together. But yes, everything that shows up as something has parts.
Natsumi bowing, how do thoughts and images relate
To what?
each other?
They like each other. Depends on the image, depends on the thought. There's some thoughts that run away and scramble up and build other kinds of thoughts and find other thoughts that agree with that thought. Yes.
Natsumi bowing, if an image comes up, am I thinking?
It's probably pretty rarefied. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't go to, if an image comes up, like if you think of a blue zebra, there's some thinking around that, but not much. And only if if passion, aggression, ignorance, like not wanting it, wanting more of it, or wanting to ignore it, if those three, and there's lots of variables there. If any of that comes up, then some thought process is probably going to will probably come in there to try to get you to get what you want, or keep away what you don't want, or ignore. And a lot of that's based on those things in consciousness called, the two things called hope and fear. Hope for something better, fear of something worse. That's all that dynamic is operating quite often. It's not about getting anything to stop or start or change or move or disappear or appear. It's about awareness of it. And eventually the awareness of it, the whole world becomes more and more like watching a movie, like watching a screen. It's just everything just becomes flickering light. The images are still there. They're just not real. People are there. Dogs, children. Some children more apparent than others. She knows who she's talking about. How was Coco?
Quite overstimulated by Halloween. and
Oh my
candy.
goodness, that was a cute Mickey Mouse costume. Thank you for that picture. I couldn't quite tell what Hugo was. What was he?
But Charmander Pokemon.
Oh, he's a Pokemon. No wonder I couldn't tell because there's 50 of them, isn't there? 50 Pokemon. I think so. More?
So many more now.
So many more than 50. Is there anyone, I know we're running out of time, but Deb, do you have a question?
Deb Bowing,
Yes.
do I need to discriminate between the original thought and the habitual thought, the next thought that is the ego, Deb Bowing?
No, you don't. You don't need to do any of that. And based on, I think you're getting from what Ondo's question was there. And so it's an important consideration to ask about or talk about, but as far as needing to do anything, no. There may be times when you just have thoughts and you don't know what the source is. You do not need to know the source of anything. You don't need to know the cause of anything. That's a blind alley. It's not even an alley. It's just a incredibly powerful area that people's egos are sucked into and causes them to follow orders by crazy people who want control. It's all over our world these days. So yeah, you don't need to liberate yourself by watching what moves. And the more you know about what's moving, the more we're ego bound. The more you have no idea what's happening, the more you're functioning out of consciousness only. The consciousness that is showing up anywhere does not know what's happening on an island in the South Pacific called Tanambogogalutu. That's an actual island. And we don't know but we're also not separate from that. But it's not about knowing. Knowing has to do with the physical form of consciousness being wrapped up in a human form or any form. A reindeer, any form will feel its separation in that form. But you don't, as a human, you can liberate yourself from the prison of that identity and still be walking around, bumping into things or being hungry, being thirsty, and still functioning like any other human being. You won't even stand out in a crowd. You'd just be very ordinary, simple. As a Tibetans say, Tamo Geshepa, ordinary mind. This is wisdom. Wisdom is just ordinary. It has no preference. has no objection, has no agreement. It's just what? Authentically present. It's real. It's ultimately real. What when we all pass away, which could happen in the next 20 minutes, if you know who you are, you can't disappear. But if you think you're this, then you're going down. I don't know where, but you'll just be somewhere in the landslide, waiting to be reborn again on Mars. Probably not Mars. I don't think they call it on Mars.
Deb Bowing.
Yes.
So where does discrimination come in? The knowing and then the discriminating. Is there?
Yeah.
Where? Deb Bowing.
It just comes in on its own. You just notice that you're seeing the difference for that of the ego, the ego part of the discrimination, and the part that just seems to be just coming out of nowhere, like a memory of something or something you don't know, have any source of it. And you'll see sometimes they're together, sometimes they're apart. So just watch it. Just like you ever wondered how what are those kind of birds that fly through the air? There's 1,500 of them. One bird flies this way and they all go that way. Now, how can they do that? I mean, are they looking at each other's wingtips or something? No, it's consciousness. Same thing with ants. You ever sat and watched ants, or stood and watched ants, or laid like this on the ground watching ants? I used to find an anthill, and then I would cut a hole in it, and I would put a piece of glass in there. Then I would cover it with sod. Then I would come back a few days later and just take the sod off and see a whole industry going on behind the glass. They didn't seem to mind. They don't like to be snuck up on them because they quick put away all of their weapons. Is the word snuck up or sneaked up? Any English majors in here?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure you've had it. So I will let you all go. So thank you so much for your time and your energy, your questions, your consideration, and your openness to even hearing such a thing as this.